Exciting times. Welcome to the first 1000 series clinic in the world. Don't think this has been done before, so we have a real game changer of a machine here. It's first time in 30 years, I believe, that the complete lineup was redesigned. So the whole system from the front end, the heads were redesigned, rebuilt. We have ear lead adapters, so we can run a pickup head, a corn head, a direct cut head, a 16-row combine snapper head. So we're going to go through a few things. This is probably a lot of it's going to be kind of sales related. We'll get into a few service things as we can. We don't, obviously you don't have experience servicing them, and we don't have a lot of experience with what goes wrong. So as you have questions on the service side, speak up. We're going to try to do a couple walkarounds here, and we've got about 60 slides here. We're going to go through a few things. We also got the simulator here with some 507 stuff that we can do on there as well. So this is a little hard to see, but I think most of you already know. We got the 1080 that lines up with the 980, same horsepower, and the 1090 is the same horsepower as the 990. And then we have the 1100 at 1020 horsepower and the 1200 at 1110 horsepower. We do not have any heads here today, unfortunately, but we will try to cover some in the slides here. So some of the main pillars that the harvester was designed around, CLAAS is very good at listening to the customers. That's what they worked hard on to develop this machine. The first one was reliability. That is the main goal of this machine. Maintainability. There's a lot of 1,000-hour intervals on different things for servicing. Throughput and efficiencies were a big one. Everybody wants more. If you look at the sign back there, it says made for more. Chop quality, operator comfort was a big one, and headers. That's kind of the 6 main aspects that they used in developing this machine. Just threw this slide in here for just a little bit of comparison to think about. On the left side, we have throughput tons per hour. The green there on the left is the 1080 and the gray is the 990. This chart is over 100,000 tons chopped. The 1080 was 5 tons per hour more than the 990, or 1.6% more. For fuel consumption in ounce per ton, the 1080 was 1 ounce less, or 7% less than the 990 in fuel consumption. That means 815 gallons less fuel in 100,000 tons chopped. Quite a difference in efficiency. The CEMOS auto performance. With that system, it's a lot of operator comfort with it. You can run the ground speed by the throughput or by engine load. We now have the yield sensor detecting on the front feed roll. As soon as it feels that slug, it'll run the ground speed off of that. It's really a super nice feature. In the past, a lot of operators haven't used it because they like to run the stick themselves, but with this feature, they want operators to know how nice it is. So here we see the 10 out of 10. It's saying that the engine horsepower is at peak because it's at number 10. You could reduce the power to a 2 and derate your engine so if you don't need the horsepower, and save your fuel. You can see in the windrow there, it's saying that where the chopper is at now, it's at 7 out of 10 of the engine horsepower. After it gets through that slug, it's going to be at 5 out of 10 there on that lower portion. So this is just a cutout showing the engine. We can see that the fuel tank is formed around the back there. The engine is still the same as the V12 that's in the 980 and 90. The fuel filters there, number 1 on the picture is a fuel pump. These engines start pretty much instantly because as soon as you turn the key on, it's putting pressure to the engine. Also, if you change fuel filters, you just turn the key on and it primes itself. That's an awesome new feature that we've been waiting for as long as I was alive. The radiator screen is now flat. It's the same as what you'll see on the combine back here. They use almost exactly the same screen. But now we have this number 6 there is a external suction fan that's run by a hydraulic motor. That's creating a lot more suction than we can ever get out of the accelerator. And then we also have the added benefit of cleaning the screen while we're on the road. You pull out on the road when all your chaff blows up on your screen. Now it'll suck it off of there. Another added benefit of this style is that before you had to kind of bring the corn cracker in on an angle, now you can very easily use a skid loader or telehandler or something and set the corn cracker straight in the side. This is just showing all the compressed air places to hook up an air hose. Number 1 picture there is the air compressor on the engine. Number 2 is the front fender connection. Number 3 would be back at the rear bumper. This here is right behind the cab, up with the steps there. We got the blow nozzle inside the cab, and then we also have the hose reel on the back. The transmission is slightly different. We got more brakes, just this machine is a little heavier and we can carry bigger heads. Also, you guys that did service to your machines, we used to run the BLS or the limited slip oil in the transmission. That is no longer required to only use regular 80-90 gear oil. For the header height control, just a reminder or reference, when you see the little icon on the screen, it means that it's in the cutting height preset, so that means you hit the top of your contour button. We have all these different symbols for positions you might be in. This here means that you're on ground pressure. This one means that you're using the contour sensors with 1 or with 2 sensing bands. This means that you're using the contour sensors with 3 sensing bands, and this means that you're using the pickup head with sensors on there. Everybody know what the black arrow is there on the contour screen? Little black arrow, your working position. Yep, that's the height where your applicator and acre counter and all that will turn on and off. Is when you go above and below that. So then we also got the joystick steering feature. You'll see that in this machine. We have 2 modes of operation. First of all, if you have this feature turned on, you need to accept the warning on the CEMOS screen every time you start it up, so that you're accepting that you're gonna touch buttons with your left arm, and you accept that. And then there's a little button here on the side that you need to tap to unlock the joystick feature. You can use the toggle. We have 2 modes of joystick steering operation. So in normal position, when you return the joystick or let go of it, it'll go back to center position, and that means that your wheels will go back straight. That is normal operation. You can hold it slightly, 50% of the way to the left, and you'll be turning 50% of the way, just kind of like a regular joystick, but all it is a toggle. Then in the other operation, the tipping operation, basically a pivot feature. If you're running in a pivot, the wheels will stay turned wherever you let off of the joystick. And of course, you can change the sensitivity of that joystick. So then we have the function keys on this left armrest. We have the L1 through 6 here. So as you see on the handle, L1 would be front, L2 would be back, and so forth. We can go in the screen and select anything we want to be on there. One feature that was in the works was to be able to key your CB mic with one of these functions. So then here's all the different things you can put on these features. It's basically everything that we could put on the toggle before, plus a few. So you can put your horn, put your warning beacons on so that you could trigger them when the trailer's full. Change your chop length. You can do your raise and lower your spout and all that stuff. So yeah, this thing is just loaded with new features, and we have new windshield wiper features. The big deal with this here is that you can set it so that when you get to the end of the field and rotate your spout, it'll run the wiper one time just to clean that opposite window. That's if you have it set in automatic. And then we also have a new wiper blade, the aqua blade they call it, on the front windshield, so it puts water out with the blade, kind of like some cars would have. It does a much better job of cleaning the front window. Does anybody know how many decibels quieter the 1080 is over this 970? 5 decibels quieter than a 502 machine. Much quieter. So you have to open the cab door if you want to hear the sharpener running. Sometimes you have to do that to know if the cutter head's running. Operator comfort was a big deal, and I would say they succeeded in that. Main drive gearbox is different now. As you can see on the main drive belt, we no longer have the Feedroll drive pump running off that belt. We now have the Feedroll drive and header drive pumps back on the main drive gearbox. So it's a little busier back there, but the main drive gearbox is now cooled. Also has a circulation filter on it there. It's another filter to change there, but I'm sure it's well tested and give us much more reliability with keeping that gearbox cooled and filtered. The drive line is very similar to what a 800 series or like an 840 or something like that. It's just very simple. We do have an extra pulley on the back there, an idler pulley, right? You can see it over there. That gives us more wrap on the main drive pulley off the engine there. This here is showing the drive line of this machine. At first glance, it does look a little scary, but they did a lot for efficiency to keep everything tuned in and synchronized. But when you have a long hydraulic hose, it loses efficiency. Number 6 here is the Feedroll drive pump, and then we have this drive line coming front to the Feedroll housing. And then number 9 here is the header drive pump, which comes front and drives the header. I believe I'll show it later, but with the variable drive 2 that you're familiar with, that drives the pickup reel on the hay head, those hoses are now driving the Christmas trees on the corn head as well. That's a separate drive system that runs that. Yeah, so Jim will give us a walk around here a little bit, look at what we've talked about.
Here's going to be your header drive 1 pumping gearbox behind the water tank. Now, a lot of the other gearboxes, just for your daily maintenance checks, have sight gauges on them. Since this one is behind the water tank, we can't visibly see it. So we've got a dipstick right here to check our oil level and quality. Now, there's a little panel here. When that water tank is on, you just pop that off and then you can get easy access to this dipstick. The last part of the drives here is going to be your length of cut pumping gearbox. So this again is coming off of your main drive gearbox up to this pump, into the gearbox, and then into your drive line. Now, these 2 drive lines here, they may appear a little scary because there's a lot of universals and shafts, but those lines have a 500-hour grease interval on them. So from everything we've seen in the last 10 years of testing this machine, as long as you grease those every 500 hours, you won't have a failure. Now, greasing those lines, it is a lot easier to pull the tire off and grease them that way, but if you get underneath the machine, you can grease the lines for your header drive 1. And then if you take off this panel and the ladder, you can get to the rest of the universals up top for your length of cut drive and the drive shaft up you can get from front. So it may seem scary, but the service intervals are long enough that you shouldn't really have to worry about it. In addition to that too, our valve blocks and bodies are different too, but it's still got the same concept where everything is right here, easy to get to, and we still have our stickers that show what ports go to what function. So diagnosing and fixing machines isn't any harder than it's been in the past.
So we got the new pivoting frame here. It's on the Feedrolls now, so that means anything we hook on the front, we can lateral contour with it. opens up the headers so we don't have that big swing frame on the header. Makes things a lot more accessible in that way. So we still have the ear saver like you're used to. But you can see on this machine over here, we now have a rock saver. It goes in place of that. It fills up this area here so that rocks or dirt can't get down on that pendulum frame. Now there's always a piece that goes in where that is. It's open on the back side for when you're doing pickup work, but it still fastens in there the same way. So some of the new features of the feeder unit, it's obviously wider. Still got the 4 rollers like we did before. Pre-compression cylinders are coming down from the top now. When you put the feed rolls in maintenance position, it'll lift the whole top feed roll, both top feed rolls, it'll lift them up completely out of the way. All your dirt can just fall out of there. We have more speed capacity out of these feed rolls, so works with more length of cut options. We can go from 1 meter per second to 5.2 meter per second. We have the pendulum frame on the front. We have a new metal detector, and we got a new stone detector concept. Before for the stone detector, we knew by the impact of whether we hit a rock or not. Now it's sensing the movement, the complete movement of the feed rolls. So it's using an algorithm to know that by how fast it moves it knows whether it's a rock or not. So it's much more capable and less false detections. So we do still have the ability right here. We can move this pendulum frame. So if we get in a circumstance where we need to tip our head front, we can slide that pendulum frame out to give the header more tilt. The new metal detector has a couple different features. One of them is that it can be calibrated. Say you're chopping along and get a big rock in and smash the feed roll, and now it wants to set the metal detector off. Before, our only option would have been to change the roll. Now we can run it through this procedure and it'll actually learn where a bad spot is in the feed roll and program itself so it won't see that. Right here is a start teaching option. It will go through a calibration process, and on your header you have a Christmas tree that's magnetized or something that's throwing something off. It'll tell itself not to read that magnetism. So a really cool new feature. Now our metal detector, we can turn the sensitivity to 0. This is something you only do if you want to be bad, but they put this feature in here, but every time you activate it, it is fully recorded in the machine, and when you shut the cutter head off, the metal detector will reactivate again. So they put the feature in there, but we will know everything that you did if you do that. So don't do it and try to say the machine's junk and blew up. So here's the upper feed rolls, the compression system with the 2 cylinders. In CEMOS, we can operate our front and rear cylinder pressures manually or different. We still have the option to run it fully in automatic. If we go in this user-defined setting, then we can change them individually manually. It gives us much more flexibility, but for the most part, as far as I know, automatic should pretty much cover it. So it does still have the plastic strips on the front feed roll. That's probably still the same as before. If you can control yourself to clean out your head before you reverse your feed rolls, we probably shouldn't need them. It might be just fine to keep running with those wear strip or those poly wear strips on. I guess we'll have to learn that. We have a new smooth roll scraper. So this whole portion down here is stationary. The smooth roll scraper is a cheaper option now. It's just this little piece here. The bolts come up into a piece here, and then it's laying flat on this surface. So you just loosen up all these Allen bolts here. Just loosen up, and then you just slide this front or back wherever you need to go to get the proper adjustment. While we're talking about wear parts, the 1000 series only comes with premium line wear parts. There's no other options. So Makes it much easier for all of us. There's not 10 different parts for a smooth roll scraper that are available. It's just one, and it's the best. So that's how it is for everything except the shear bar. We still have a few different options there. So there's a bit of a new process for opening the feed rolls. This here is explaining that process. I'll just quick run through it. Remove the guards, take the header drive shaft off, and you need to raise the header feed roll unit up, and then there's this cable that you hook up, and then put the feed rolls down until this cable is tight here, and then at that point you undo the latch, same as was on the 502 series. After that, you raise the feed rolls back up until this cable comes loose, and then you take the cable off. At that point, this single point is just supporting this frame. Then you go down underneath and take this latch off and remove this cable, and then we lower the feed roll housing until there's a little pendulum right in here that you can see to know how far to go. And then at that point you can swing this feed roll housing open, and as you'll see on this one, the limit is just as far as the tire will let you go. So this one we swung the whole way out the side and gives us a big wide area. You want to make sure that you have this cable hooked up and that you V it open before you undo this latch on the top, or it will fall open. So that there button, these lift cylinders require pressure going to them for them to activate. So when that button is activated, it no longer gets oil down here. So there's a check valve that is locking this cylinder out. When that button is pressed, there's no hoses or anything that could fail that could cause the header to come down. The only thing would be if a cylinder would break or blow out or something at that point. So fairly safe feature, but still need to take cautious.
This rock deflector just kind of keeps rocks from getting up underneath your feed rolls. It'll push them out into the head. There's also a couple new sensors on the feed roll cabinet itself. So first one is this guy down here. This sensor is just going to be your header recognition sensor. It's just a magnetic sensor that says, is there a header on, yes or no? Further below, there's also a sensor that senses the pitch of lateral tilt of the faceplate. And then another one on the faceplate is this pitch position sensor. So if you are going to angle the faceplate down to pitch your header forward or back, this sensor is basically just reading the angle up there. If you need to check your knives, lifting your feed rolls up, you can see your knives right through the throat, so you don't have to crawl underneath the machine anymore. I'd much rather just lay on the head than get underneath the machine. Here's those valves we were talking about. We got them taped up for safety purposes, but you can kind of see they're up right now. The block is labeled. Yeah, so you can see on the block there, it says lift front, lift rear, and an arrow up. So up is maintenance position, down is working position. So whenever you go to raise these up, flip these first up, go up into your cab, then you can then put your feed rolls in a maintenance position and they'll come up and stay up. I'm not going to do it here just because there's a bunch of people around, but if you do flip these valves down with the engine off, the feed rolls will crash down, so it's still advised to keep a block in there for safety purposes. So if you depressurize it and CEMOS with these valves up, they'll slowly come down in a controlled manner. That's the preferred method to do it, but deselect it in CEMOS so they gently come down and then hit your valves. I don't know if you guys can see it very well, but there's a red latch with a 24 mil bolts on it. We're going to put our impact on there. and the impact is basically lifting the entire feedroll cabinet up into position, so it'll kill a lesser impact. From here, we can start up the engine.
You still have that button.
I do. Keep pressing. Take our cable here. There's a red bracket up underneath the cap that this cable is going to be attached to. Also, just so you guys know, there's nothing to keep you from running this into your faceplate. So, just be cognizant of that. You don't want to have to buy a new faceplate. So we've got our cable attached, and we're going to lower our feedroll cabinet. There's going to be tension on the cable, and it's going to feed the feedroll cabinet closed.
You go into cab, CEMOS, engine running, you go to the sharpening menu, the maintenance. There's an icon in there, you open the door, and then another one to maintenance set in stone. You hit that, the stone will come over to position here above the knife, and then you can adjust the stone to the knife instead of trying to find this adjustment bolt under here. Makes it a little easier there.
This is all kind of clean right in here, so if there's a header on, you can just lay right in over the top. And
Yeah, it'll move it all the way across. It'll time how long it took to get all the way across, and then go 60% of the way back. So it'll be parked over your right knife. If there's a knife at the top, then
you gotta make sure there's a knife on top. In line with the stone before you adjust it. You know, for the ones that forget to adjust the bolt up again before they screw it up, now you can't mess up.
it's the exact same stone. There is a more aggressive one that's available, I think is what the parts book would call for. But because we got the wider drum, and it'll sharpen harder. From what I understand, there's no sharpening benefit to using the water. It's just for thermal events, just to keep the sparks down. That you can see if you look in here, you can see the red nozzle. It's right back there. When you have sharpening with water turned on in CEMOS, then you have the option to go up to 60 sharpening passes at once. So apparently the water is doing something. It's cooling the stone a little bit. And
forgot to mention too the new rock stop sensor. In the past we had that gray box with the pendulum in it. That's not an option anymore. It's basically just a second quantimeter. So we are used to our quantimeter on the rear feed rolls. It measures the position of the rear feed rolls. On the other side there's one for the front feed rolls, and that's going to be a rock stop now. So,
the rock stop sensor is right here.
yep, so in theory you're not going to have as many variables as the machine's age, whether your spring gets worn out or you have enough weights on your pendulum. It's just going to be a sensor, and if it breaks, replace it.
The cutter head is same diameter, I believe, as
Yep.
before. So
Yeah, same diameter, just wider.
yep. So we still got the 24 knife drum as preference like before, and got the. As we go to talk about the V-Flex cutter drum, that drum was specifically designed for this machine. So we screamed and yelled and got it before this machine was released, but that's what the V-Flex drum was designed for the big horsepower and bigger capacity. So. You can see the big clamps that are on the cutter head bearings, so that's a big improvement with, especially as we go to big heads. We can't have any free play in any of this setup, so that's all very tight and shouldn't be getting any play out of the cutter head housing. So the headers are smart headers now, so they have constant pressure coming out to the heads, and so all the hydraulic functions happening on the header is controlled by the header, not the machine as before. Certain features can react quicker, and especially with like the gauge wheels on the 14 row. These two ports are for to run the pickup reel on the hay head, as we would have had with the variable drive, header drive 2 before. And then these are the ones that do your header fold and all that. The electrical plug is in a separate connector, just for the fact that we want to keep the hydraulic oil and all that junk out of that. We don't want to be like a combine and have all that hydraulic dirt and everything in our electrical plug. So this menu is just showing how to get in there to put the sharpener to home. You got to go in there and hit the button to open the door, and then put the sharpener in maintenance position, and then when you're done you have to send the sharpener back home again and manually shut the door, because you can't start the cutter head when that door is open. Talked about this, you can do 60 passes with sharpening with water. If it's something you really want to use, I think it would be fairly easy to add capacity to that hand wash tank. So going on to the cutter head, we have a little different adjustment for the drum bottom. It still works the same, it moves front and back with the shear bar. We have these levers on the side. You can use your 1/2 inch ratchet or something and put it in that slot, adjust your gap. This machine is built for capacity and efficiency. Some of these things are different than before, especially your drum bottom gap and your accelerator gap. So the default setting is 17 millimeter at the back of the drum bottom to the knives. If you get in real tough conditions, you can still go to the 2 millimeter gap just to get harder blowing. Then the transition chute is still same concept, just wider. Corn cracker, you can see the difference here. It's makes that thing look like a baby. We do have a bunch of different rule variants available. So we have the coarse, medium, fine, and shredlage. I think most of the machines we're getting, not sure how they were ordered, but I think most of them are shredlage. We still got all the differentials available that we had before. If you're running a 50% and for some reason you want to go back to a 40% or 30% differential, seems like you might need another belt. I'm not sure if you get away with the same belt or not, but something to keep in mind. It's the same concept. It's still, the lid swings open like before. Bearings are increased in size and all that stuff, but it's the rules are now 12.2 inches, I believe, instead of the 9 they were before. And then just wanted to bring up this chop quality analysis tool. If you have this blue plate here and have the CLAAS Connect app, you can put some silage on there and analyze it, and then it'll give you a chop quality score. I'd done some with this, but so here I'm in a machine, and in the optimized section here we have this silage calculator option, and then we have this chop quality analysis, and here's a bunch of the tests that I had done. And this test here with my homemade cracking, it don't work so well with fermented silage, but tried to do some testing, but I got a 42% chop quality score here. But it's a if you like to play with that kind of thing, it's, or if you have some tough dairies that you chop for, it could be a way to save your day sometime. If you need to take like 30 pictures of the silage sample, and it'll upload them to the CLAAS cloud and uses artificial intelligence to to tell you how many kernels and all that stuff are in there. The other thing with this corn cracker, everything about this machine is just a little different. So I believe last fall we were running, what, 2 to 3 millimeter gap and doing pretty much the job of what a 3/4 millimeter gap or 0.75 millimeter gap would do on one of these processors. So it seems like we can get away with a millimeter or two more bigger gap than we did before. So accelerator gap adjustment is now a standard option. So we have 2 big cylinders there to move that accelerator in and out. And we now have a 60 millimeter adjustment range. When they were testing this machine, they actually chopped the whole day without the accelerator installed in the machine because of just the velocity of everything. It can blow it out the spout without the accelerator's help. So now we got the different spout options. This here is showing the medium spout, which I believe is what's on this machine. When this spout here is in the home position, this rear door can open quite the whole way. So every machine is coming with a hay spout and a corn spout. You can see the hay spout laying behind Jim there, or the corn spout. That is the folding option. If you look up at this spout, we can see the joint here. So we got 8 bolts and a couple quick connectors there, and we can unhook that spout and set it on the ground and pick this one up and set it on, and away we go. So that's much more fun than all them old carriage bolts. And each spout comes with everything on it except the autofill camera that needs swapped over. So then this is just showing we got 5 different spout options. I believe this one is the XL. So this would be for a 12. So if you have the 14, it would be the 2XL. So that's all the options we got if you decide you'd want something different than what you got yet. So we got the NIR 2.0 now. We still have both moisture meter options, the same as we did before. With the NIR, that's an ISOBUS system. Our machines are now ISOBUS capable with the CEMOS 1200, or the additional display screen, and or the CBUS. We can run the Nutrimeter values into that. So it's the same as before. It requires 50 ton an hour throughput to activate it, and we have the same measurement ranges for moisture as we did before. It does only read the values as dry matter at this point. This is how it looks when it's showing up on your screen in ISOBUS. So it's giving you all your different starches and fibers, and we can map that in CLAAS Connect. Don't believe we can in anything else yet, but at this point we for sure can map the NIR values in CLAAS Connect. Probably not going to read this. More information on the initial startup. The Actisiler on the machine is still the same as the 502 series. This is applicable to a 502 as well, but one complaint we get a lot is we don't know if the Actisiler or the applicator is putting product on or what it's actually doing. So with this menu in CBUS, we can put it on your home screen, and with that we get a level sensor here, or a flow sensor. Right now we can see we're at a 10 millimeter chop length. Our water tank is at 173 liters per hour. So as we're chopping along and it calls for more or less, this bar should go up and down. So this is what it's actually doing. On this center screen here we have the Actisiler as well. So here it's saying that the Actisiler is at 1.1 liter per hour. And that will move up and down as your flow increases or decreases. Another feature of the 1000 series, all the grease lines are held on with a nut, so there's no more quick connectors. So that's part of the reliability push, is so there's no quick connectors that can possibly come disconnected. And then at all the different grease banks, we have these grease ports, so you can grease any of your separate functions manually. Say you have something that you replace the bearing, or there's something that you don't think is getting proper grease, you could hook a grease gun up to this and grease it manually. All right, we'll go through header things a little bit. We got the two models for this year is the Orbis 9000, which is the 12-row 30-foot, and then the Orbis 10500, which is the 14-row 35-foot. One real nice feature on these corn heads is this curtain here. It really keeps the crop front and laid down in front of you. These heads do not have, there is no pipe here anymore like is shown on this head, but when that, so it really keeps things much more open in front of you. So here's showing the drive line on the pickup head. The single point coupler here comes down and runs a hydraulic pump here, and then we got a gearbox going front to run the pickup reel. This shaft comes across here and runs the auger. Does anybody see a chain on this head? No chains. Yeah, where's the slip clutch? There's no clutch, no chain. Two things we hate are slip clutches and chains, and they're no longer on this head. There's just many new features on here. We don't have time to talk about them all, but you'll see we got the new, the rollers here are spread back out away from the windrow. That was always a problem on the old pickup heads. Had the roller in the center, would ball up with mud. Pickup reel is completely redesigned, so this is a huge improvement. There's no bushings in it anymore. We have the, that's right, so this is all the gearbox here that is oil bath. So we now have poly bands, and they are quick connect, so you can just take a long punch or something and pop it open. You can roll it out over, or just hold it away and change your tine bar, or sorry, change your teeth. So we now have nuts that are held on the bottom, so all you need to do is zip this off and zip the new one on. 5 minutes you can change a pickup tine without pinching your fingers. There you can see how they're fastened. They just slide in over top of here. So yeah, then the auger is made for much more capacity. The crop rollers are larger in diameter, especially this front one is about 12, 14 inches. We have different paddles for on here. All these wear points are hardened. We have this new dust net. For the auger support, there's a rollers here with, they're on an eccentric, so you can, if you have heavy crop, you can turn this roller up to keep the auger away, or if you have light crop, you can turn it back down. For this year, this cylinder that supports the auger is going to have 3 separate settings in the software, so you can actually just change the position of that auger from the cab. So if you're in real heavy crop, it'll raise it up and make it feed much smoother, and then when you raise your head above working position, it'll lower that auger back down to clean it out. When you get to the end of the row, raise your head up, it'll put the auger down and clean it out. I think we covered all this. We have larger gauge wheels with the new bearing. Active contour sensors are standard. We have the 2 pickup option. It's the 12-foot and the 15-foot. There's no 10-foot option anymore. 3800 is same size as the 380 used to be, and then the 4500 is a 15-foot larger one. So then just a reminder, we got the new fleet of earlage adapters, and of course that will pivot with the swing frame on the feed rolls. This earlage adapter, the paddle in there does float, so same as your feed rolls. So as your capacity goes up and down, it will change that for even feeding. Also, it's got all the capabilities to run the deck plates and the contour and all that on a Lexian head, or you can get an adapter that matches with a John Deere head. And then what we talked about a little bit was the CLAAS steering and mapping system that is new for this year as well. So this will also retrofit onto a 502 machine, but we can do a full CLAAS system for GPS steering and yield mapping. And this is also an isobus screen, so here they're running a sprayer, but if you had the Nutrimeter on, you could have it running in this little screen beside it here. This is a Trimble based, has some Trimble software in it, but it's CLAAS products, and now we can do pretty much every GPS steering thing you want to, as well as live yield mapping with a CLAAS system.
Your stone adjustment tool's got a cradle, and so does your shear bar torsion tool. And it says that these aren't a step, but they're knurled for a reason. So do with that information what you will. The weight system has been improved quite a bit too. So previously a lot of guys would just leave 3 weights on, or they would leave 12 weights on, or whatever, because you got to split the stack in order to get the correct number of weights. We simplified that by just all the weights are on in corn, all the weights are off in hay. So the whole entire block is just held in with a couple bolts. You take these bolts out with your forklift underneath, pull them out, the stack stays together, then throw them back on when you put your corn head on. Hydraulic oil tank is quite a bit bigger just because there's a lot more hydraulic demand on the machine, but I wouldn't worry about it too much because it's still a 3,000 hour hydraulic oil change interval, so nothing's changed there. Battery box is all still similar to what we know from the 502. Fuel tank is on the back fender now. Move the fuel tank back here for one of 2 reasons. First one is it gives us a lot more room to get our corn cracker in and out rather than having it up on the fender. And the second reason is without having it mounted up on the steps of the fender, all the chaff that tends to accumulate up on those steps doesn't fall into your fuel tank anymore. Here's your suction fan for your radiator screen. And then another thing to mention too, the cooling fan on the 507s is now a standard variable speed cooling fan. Big difference from the way it used to be though, is we don't have that variator and gearbox anymore. It's just a hydraulic motor back in there that's doing it. So a lot less maintenance heavy than a variator is. Electronically primed fuel pump and fuel filters, flat radiator screen. The radiator screen still has the brush that we know. The auto greaser is a different auto lube system. It's no longer the Lincoln system, it's the same one that we use off the combine. It's still a 35-pound fill level, but it's just a little shorter and stouter. There's that block that Darren was talking about in the slides there. So if you have a blockage, you can put your greaser on that block to equalize your blockage. Grass chute, corn cracker still in there. Oh, yeah, something else important too. Kind of skipped over it whenever we were talking about corn crackers, but since this is a lot bigger belt, bigger pulleys, it is kind of a pain to get the belt on and off, especially when that belt is brand new. A couple things we can do to get the belt on a little easier is this inside fender panel here. We can undo the quarter turns and lean that in against the wheel, so that gives us a little more clearance between the wall and the pulleys. But also the accelerator gap adjustment. Whenever we have our accelerator gap all the way up at 60 millimeter, like we would typically have in corn, the pulley's all the way up here, so it's a lot harder to get the belt on. So If you know that you're going to be taking the belt on and off, it's generally a good idea to put your accelerator gap down at 1 so that pulley comes down. That's a lot easier to get the belt.
Yes, so that concludes our 1000 Series clinic. Thanks for coming and happy harvest.